light for our Friday. It's partly cloudy and it's a little warmer, too. I think a good shot to make it into the low 50s for the afternoon. And then we'll chill it back down. 40s over the weekend, but a big warm-up on the way likely by next week. That's exciting. That's your forecast. From the Serve Pickleball and Kitchen, I'm WSIC meteorologist Chase Myers.
Looking for an upscale night out? Welcome to VIN 110 in Cornelius, Lake Norman's destination for great drinks, great bags, and live music. With over 500 whiskeys, 100 wines, a full cocktail list, and small plate kitchen, we built something special. Enjoy live music every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, monthly comedy nights, and curated wine and whiskey tastings. VIN 110, where your night becomes the main event. Find us at 19712 1 Norman Boulevard, Suite 110 in Cornelius.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
Ladies and gentlemen, the journey for focus, clarity, and mental mastery is about to begin. Live from WSIC Studios on the shores of Lake Norman, the show that gives you the tools to think sharper, sleep deeper, manage stress, and unlock your full mental potential. This is Your Brain Matters. And now, with over 30 years of brain science, more than 70,000 brain analyses, bringing neuroscience to everyday life, here's your host, Dr. Tim Royer.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Here we are, Your Brain Matters, and she's back, people. You all are saying, thank the Lord that Amy's back, because Doc just went on and on last week.
I knew you had it in you.
Oh, it was so tough.
You were probably so
tough.
ready to own the entire time.
I thought, oh, this will be great. I get all the time to myself. And
less interruptions.
I realized I'm just like the eye candy. No. You're the brains behind this operation. You know what I'm saying? What the heck?
Okay, eye candy.
Eye candy.
Okay.
So, as you guys remember from last week, Amy was gone with us because she was up taking care of her dad, who unfortunately passed on Saturday. And we're both very, very sad, but we're also kind of, we feel like we've helped him get across the finish line. Amy's committed so many of the last days from the last 3 years to help him. And
yes.
What is your thoughts about that journey?
My thoughts are a lot about peace, both his peace, but also my peace, in knowing we were so fortunate to be able to take care of my mom and dad in the last years. Really, they lived near us for the last 10 years, so just really being involved in their lives, I gained so much from that. Yeah. And it was a pleasure to take care of each of them to their end. I will miss him.
Yes.
I will also miss my mom, who we lost in September. But I have so much of them in me, as you know. And also just my kids carry so much memories of them both and individually. And something I did not anticipate was just really enjoying my dad's last 4 months while my mom was gone.
Yeah.
Because so much of my dad was who he was with my mom.
Right.
And he had some extra things to show me in the last 4 months of just kind of who he is individually, as I had never known him alone, because I'd had both of them my whole life. So that was very special. And man, I know it sounds trite, but like Your Brain Matters kept coming into my mind. Because as a nurse, like I'm watching my dad, and the dying process is really something to stop and respect.
Right.
And it's so driven by the brain. And because of my education, like I knew as I watched him, like kind of where we were going and how it was going to play out. And it's all the brain. I mean, and then I would say to myself, like, Aim, your brain matters. Like, you have to be sharp. You have to know exactly what you're doing. Because I was able to take care of him the last 4 days. So it was up to me to make sure he had everything, all his needs met, So I was like setting an alarm for myself in the night, getting up, checking things just like back in the nursing days. So my brain needed to be sharp and it needed to matter. So it was just a lot going on. But you can never get too far from the brain being central to everything. And I really appreciated that. My brain was able to work for me, help me through that situation.
Right.
My dad's brain did what it needed to do to get through that situation. And it's just a lot to respect about life and the brain and all that, in my belief, all that God gives us.
Yeah, definitely. And watching the whole breathing process, like we start with that first breath and just kind of watching like what's going to be that last breath and how that kind of drove everything. And we take it so for granted.
Yeah.
And it's right there.
Yeah. In this situation, with him being 90 plus and having had Parkinson's for over 10 years, you know, this was something expected. And so this was a peaceful end to something that, you know, had been very difficult. And so I felt relief that he had accomplished his lifespan.
Yeah. If you all out there want to read something super inspiring, look up Dr. Joseph DeCook, DeCook, his obituary, where one of his sons, both sons, did some work and put together a pretty extensive one, putting together his history, which is just, this guy just changed the world. I mean, he made such a huge impact, and would encourage you. You'll find that online if you just look that up. So we have a few more minutes left here, just a couple announcements. We're looking forward to some contracts that are starting up. That we're working at Clear 28 and High Point Golf and High Point Baseball. And then this weekend, I'm speaking up at Liberty University at a Flourishing conference, which will be fun. And this next 3 episodes are going to be on anxiety. Anxiety. Oh my goodness.
Something
a
very
rare thing nobody's ever had.
One of the most common diagnoses right now is anxiety. And it's so funny because people say, like, why didn't we have this earlier in history when, you know, we didn't have enough food or we were dying from all these diseases, et cetera. We fix all these things and now we have more anxiety than ever.
Yeah, it's crazy. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a 3-part series. It's going to be first recognize, so how we kind of recognize it, then revealing it, kind of looking at how we find it in the brain, not just downstream, and then how we rewire the brain to manage anxiety. And our book that we're going to be talking about that Amy and I have written together called Tsunami, which is about this epidemic of anxiety and depression, that is available for free if you reach out to text us 616-341-2299, 341-2299, and ask for Tsunami, and you will get a free copy of the book.
Yeah, it's a really nice little book. It doesn't take long to read it. It does unpack some things. And I just think it's super encouraging.
Yeah. So I'm going to introduce the person, because this is one of my best friends who our quote is from today.
Yes.
And I'm going on a golf outing with him and my other 2 best friends next week. And I hope to win the hat, but we'll see what happens.
Okay.
But Dale is a retired major in the United States Army, Dale Sharp. He's a physician assistant with 26 years of service, including 2 13-month tours in Iraq and 1 13-month tour in Afghanistan. And this is what Dale says when we asked him about why his brain matters.
Dale said, "For me personally, sleep is everything for my brain. Nothing matters more. If I don't have the proper amount and quality of sleep, my brain just doesn't work well. When I don't get enough sleep or quality of sleep, I notice that I can't focus as well on the task at hand, and I certainly can't multitask. I struggle to recall names of medications. I can't calculate math as quickly, and it even seems to affect my mood and makes me feel more anxious." Okay, Dale, thanks for leading us in.
Here we go.
Take a breath. Let your brain reset. We'll be right back with Dr. Tim Royer on Your Brain Matters. WSIC, local, starts here.
Well, partly cloudy skies. We go through the rest of the evening. Overnight temperatures get cold again as we fall off down into the mid-20s around the lake for our Friday. It's partly cloudy and it's a little warmer too. I think a good shot to make it into the low 50s for the afternoon. And then we'll chill it back down. 40s over the weekend, but a big warm up on the way likely by next week. That's exciting. That's your forecast. From the Surf Pickleball and Kitchen, I'm WSIC meteorologist Chase Myers.
Harness the healing power of horses. With the amazing staff at Willow Equine in Mooresville, we create a supportive environment conducive to healing and growth, dedicated to self-discovery and overcoming adversity. There's a program for you at willowequine.com.
Here's your WSIC community calendar,
Valentine's Day is officially on the horizon.
which means it's time to start planning, whether that's date night, girls' night, or just treating yourself.
Exactly. Let's take a look at what's coming up around Lake Norman.
We'll start in Statesville with a fun, feel-good event the whole family can enjoy. The Valentine's Day themed market happens Saturday, February 7th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 109 East Water Street in downtown Statesville.
Shop local bakers, artists, and creators. Enjoy Valentine's vibes. And yes, there's even a mini petting zoo with baby goats.
Plus, a Valentine's-themed photo area, a special $5 strawberry matcha, and 20% of all sales benefit Bella's Backpacks, helping children in need.
If you're looking for a Valentine's weekend date that's a little more mysterious,
The Murder Mystery Dinner featuring Sigmund Theatrical takes place February 13th and 14th at 7 p.m.
this fully interactive experience turns a museum setting into a living whodunit where guests become detectives, uncovering clues hidden among priceless artifacts and marble halls.
It's elegant, suspenseful, and perfect for couples or friends who want something different this Valentine's weekend.
Find tickets and full details at mooresvilleevents.com/OurTownStage.
Looking ahead to Galentine's Day?
Grab your besties and your biggest tote. Ella Blue is hosting a Galentine's shopping event, Friday, February 13th from 4 to 6 p.m. at 221 Griffith Street in Davidson, featuring boutique shopping, fun finds, and the perfect excuse to celebrate with friends.
For even more Valentine's events, local happenings, and community news,
Visit liveworkplaylkn.com today.
that's liveworkplaylkn.com.
We're back with more ways to understand the most powerful computer you'll ever own. Your Brain. Your Brain Matters, hosted by Dr. Tim Royer, only on WSIC. Local starts here.
Okay, welcome back to Your Brain Matters. And we had a great intro. We left off, though, with our quote from Dale.
Yeah.
Which I actually had to crack up because Dale doesn't
idea.
know what we're talking about from week to week. And he basically took us from sleep
Yeah.
into anxiety.
Isn't that crazy?
So that was great. We're all like resonating on the same thing. So when we talk about anxiety, I think every one of us experiences the feeling of anxiety. But I think what we want to hear from you, Doc, is kind of unpack this a little bit further, because while I do experience anxiety about certain things, I don't believe I have a diagnosis of anxiety, because it's not a huge part of my everyday life. But I have that feeling come and go. So I kind of want you to explain to us, where does it become diagnostic? And like, what's the other in between? Does it come and go at different times of life? Like some of those questions that pop up.
Yeah, and I think first of all, kind of how do we define that? I think that anxiety can get blurred sometimes with stress.
Yes.
Is that
Yes.
I'm stressed. You might be more anxious than stressed, or there could be both, right?
Yep.
And I love this quote. I think we read Chris Casola in here a few weeks back. He's the athletic director, one of the athletic directors, assistant athletic director at Liberty. And we were doing a video once, and he opened the video and he said, "We are here to purposely create stress
Yes.
for our athletes."
Yep.
I mean, you're not going
To push them.
right. You're
Right.
not going to be a good athlete without stress.
Mhm.
You're not going to be healthy without stress.
Mhm.
Your heart doesn't work well
Yes.
without stress. Your body doesn't work well So it's like this thing that can be super helpful, but there's a line it crosses.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this from the beginning about the autonomic nervous system. And when that autonomic nervous system gets to a certain point, it now goes into sympathetic. That's the actual scientific measurement in the autonomic nervous system of anxiety, is when it pushes into the sympathetic, and now we're anxious. And there's real things that cause anxiety, like a fire or being chased by a lion. Those are stress and now going into anxiety, which are sympathetic responses. So the thing about anxiety is it can be measured. It's not just something that like, well, it's this vague thing that comes upon me, but you can actually measure that in the human. And it's important for us to understand that you said it earlier in the first section here, is we're living in a culture where we have less things to be anxious about. You know, we're not dealing with the plague or,
Yeah.
not having electricity, or it's too cold and I don't have heat, right? We're not dealing with these life and death things, but yet we have more anxiety than we've ever had,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And currently, it's about 30% of adults. So almost 1 in 3 will experience some type of anxiety disorder.
So that's pretty big, because you're saying a diagnostic thing,
Yes.
anxiety disorder, not just a feeling of anxiety. So yeah, that's a lot.
That's profound.
That's a lot.
You know,
Yeah.
it was funny. I was talking to Dale a couple days ago, and he's been practicing as a PA for years, decades. And I said, what are the most common things you see? And within the first 2 or 3, it's like anxiety. Now he's working in the medical field, right? You're
Yes.
thinking it's something else, but anxiety comes right into his office every day, right? And I think if you ask most physicians out there, medical people, they'd say, yeah, we're dealing with anxiety or something with an anxiety overlay. In children and adolescents, 1 in 5 will struggle with significant anxiety. That's a lot in a kid who doesn't have to balance a checkbook. They don't have to pay the mortgage. They don't have to invest in their future. They're just kind of living life.
Yeah.
And they're 1 in 5. And so the big things is when this anxiety gets elevated, it affects our sleep, it affects our attention, our emotional functioning, and then our performance can become inconsistent because this anxiety creates this other layer many layers that then impact how we function, right? An emotion can actually change how well I can perform at my job, right?
Yeah. So it feels like you're talking about a difference between fear versus anxiety. Like, for example, kids can fear things and I can fear things, but anxiety is going to impede a natural response. Like, you're not going to be able to function in the way that you would be expecting to function. So, like, a child could be anxious to be in the dark, like in their bedroom at nighttime. They might be crying, not just because they don't want to go to bed, but they could be anxious about the darkness.
Right. And some of that's developmental.
Yeah.
Because it's so unknown. If I'm 25 years old and I'm crying in the dark because I'm anxious, then there's probably something that's related to some type of trauma or unresolved past issue that's coming up, because I understand the unknown more, or it isn't unknown. And so then that takes you into kind of like when things go from just normal everyday functioning to now they're a disorder.
Okay.
So a few of those disorders that we want to think about when we look in the class of anxiety disorders is you've got post PTSD. So when somebody's been traumatized, and then their nervous system in that trauma tries to protect them by going into a sympathetic state. But once the trauma's over, their nervous system is now stuck in this locked state. That's really what PTSD is. And then you have generalized anxiety disorder, which is a diagnosis where a person's just anxious in all kinds of situations. They just, it's a pervasive thing. And when the anxiety starts to create disruption in everyday living or avoidance of tasks, or again, inconsistent performance, now that anxiety's gone from just a natural human emotion to an emotion that's disrupting things. So in generalized anxiety disorder, you will see that. Another disorder would be obsessive compulsive disorder, which that might seem a little bit removed from just regular anxiety, but what drives the OCD is anxiety underneath.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I can definitely
you see,
vibe with that.
yeah, and so then you have phobias. So you have people that avoid things like elevators or crowded situations like agoraphobia. You have these phobias that come where the anxiety is now literally altering their behavioral functioning and what they're doing. Like they cannot leave the house without going back and checking the doorknobs, or they're locked, and they're kind of, always stuck in things, or counting lights. And, these things are brought on by anxiety. And then you have this thing it's part of the category, but it's panic attacks. And so that's when somebody actually, their nervous system has elevated so much into sympathetic because of the anxiety that now they feel like their heart's racing, like they're having a heart attack, or they can't breathe, or they're in this fight flight state. That can occur across these various disorders. So it's kind of a character trait that can happen, or a trait that can happen inside of phobia, or inside generalized anxiety, or inside OCD, or inside PTSD, but it's a display of the anxiety where it actually overtakes your physiological functioning.
Wow. I feel like you told me once before, as far as the diagnostic manual,
Yeah.
like this area in the diagnostic manual has just exploded, where it used to
Big
be
time.
there's a diagnosis of anxiety. Now it's like many diagnoses, but they all go back to the same core. And if we were able to look upstream, we would be looking for the same thing underneath all of these things.
Yeah, I think I'm glad you brought us back there. Okay. Like, we want to be careful not to just be looking downstream at behaviors. We need to look upstream to thoughts and feelings, but then we got to go even further upstream. You're doing a disservice if you're not looking at physiologically what's going on with breathing, heart rate variability, vagus nerve, brain functioning. And the ultimate is neurological. We got to get up and look at the actual EEG activity in the brain, because that's right. In every one of these disorders, there's measurable components upstream that can keep this from just being a vague, kind of squishy, subjective. And a lot of times, that's what makes anxiety even worse, is you can't get your hands around it.
Yeah.
It comes out of the blue. That's a characteristic of panic attacks sometimes, is and that unknown, just like the child in the dark, that unknown elevates that anxiety. And so you can't just stay downstream in behaviors and emotions and thoughts. You need to go upstream and measure this physiologically. And we'll learn about this in the next episode, or the third episode, where we rewire how we systematically desensitize the nervous system to these different things or triggers that cause the anxiety.
When you were talking about all those different diagnoses, I thought of a quote that I have on my phone, and I've been repeating this to myself all week. So this quote says, "Instead of always trying to pull people out of the river, why don't we go upstream and find out why they're falling in?"
Oh my gosh.
I absolutely
I love this.
love that
Where did you
quote.
find this?
It was in an email. Somebody who puts that at the bottom of their email, and I really like this person too. So I just think that's genius. And especially in this topic that we're talking about, let's go and find out why they're falling in
Exactly.
in the first place.
Yeah. And how do we, as we're gonna learn in a couple episodes, how do we rewire this? But before you go rewire or do things, we have to understand what it is. What is this thing we're talking about, and how to quantify that as we move forward.
Yep. Good.
I love it. Let's go.
Don't go anywhere. Dr. Tim Royer will be right back with more ways to make your brain work for you. Your Brain Matters on WSIC. Local starts here.
Well, partly cloudy skies. We'll go through the rest of the evening. Overnight temperatures get cold again as we fall off down into the mid-20s around the lake for our Friday. It's partly cloudy and it's a little warmer too. I think a good shot to make it into the low 50s for the afternoon. And then we'll chill it back down. 40s over the weekend, but a big warm up on the way likely by next week. That's exciting. That's your forecast. From the Serve Pickleball and Kitchen, I'm WSIC meteorologist Chase Myers.
Spotless cleaning. How can we make your day spotless? Yes, we make not just toilets spotless, but also counters, cabinets, and kitchens. We make your whole house, your whole day spotless. My grandparents taught me the details, not the things, make your home and your life luxurious. Yes, they raised me in Brazil. And that's why we will never charge you extra for baseboards. Let me help you be a diva a few hours a week. SpotlessCleaningNC.com.
Quality Car Care is your local Toyota specialist and a licensed NC inspection station. Plus, find a huge selection of quality pre-owned cars at QualityCarCareStatesville.com or call 704-871-2535.
Keep winter cold outside with propane heat from GMB Energy. We provide cost-effective propane to cook meals and heat your home and water, even when the power goes out. For a limited time, save big with rebates, like up to $350 on Cozy Heat fireplaces and up to $450 on select Rinnai tankless water heaters. Visit one of our 9 locations. Call 855-LPG-PROS or visit gbenergy.com. GMB Energy, family-owned and NC Grow.
When words fall short, flowers say everything. Petal Perfections is Lake Norman's go-to florist for custom, romantic designs made with heart. Mention this ad for 10% off. Drop by our shop at 2785 Charlotte Highway in Mooresville or visit petalperfections.com and feel the love.
Every day you listen to the news, but how is that news affecting your financial world? Things like your retirement and your kids' college fund? You need someone who can help you work towards your goals, someone to help you move forward in these times of change. Call Eileen Stoner at Morgan Stanley. Eileen has 28 years of experience as a financial advisor, and she's right here in Cornelius, North Carolina. To make an appointment with Eileen Stoner, call 704-896-9138. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, LLC. Member SIPC.
Order up. The Serve Pickleball Plus Kitchen in Cornelius is where sport and food are paired perfectly with philanthropy. Come play, dine, celebrate, and connect. No membership required. All ages welcome. Eat, play, serve it forward. Visit theservepickleball.com.
Jack Frost loves catching unprepared homes. A furnace that sputters, a heat pump that strains, it's his playground. Beat him to it with a fall maintenance check from Horn Heating and Air Conditioning. Fall into the season of ah. Visit hornhvac.com, where your comfort is our business.
The Ugly Antenna has now become a household name in this area. The Ugly Antenna allows those without a streaming provider to receive up to 50 channels absolutely free of charge, including Fox 46.1. The Ugly Antenna is small and connects directly to your TV. Get the Ugly Antenna for just $40. Call 704-682-1755. That's 704-682-1755 for the Ugly Antenna.
Don't miss a thing. Download the WSIC News app today. WSIC. Local starts here.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Bitcoin's price continues its decline, dropping below $65,000. Bitcoin has lost nearly half its value since hitting a record high in October. Companies like Coinbase and Robinhood have been hit hard. President Trump-related crypto ventures have also declined significantly. Amazon is set to report its fourth quarter earnings after the bell. The company will then discuss results with investors an hour later. Wall Street expects Amazon to report a 21% year-over-year increase in its web services revenue to almost $35 billion. Novo Nordisk says it will take legal action against rival Hims & Hers after the telehealth company said it's launching a cheaper copycat version of Novo's Wegovy weight loss pill. Hims is $49 compared to Novo's $149. Novo saying it's another example of Hims & Hers' historic behavior of duping the American public with knockoff GLP-1 products. Shares of Novo Nordisk and rival Eli Lilly each fell about 7% after Hims announced its copycat version. Matt Piper, Bloomberg Radio.
The button pushing stops here.
WSIC. Local starts here.
Brain Science Made Simple. Your Brain Matters. Hosted by Dr. Tim Royer, continues on WSIC. Local starts here.
Welcome back. We are continuing a great conversation about
Yeah.
anxiety. We wanted to remind listeners that anxiety in and of itself is not a problem until it starts to impact function,
Right.
right? So actually there is healthy anxiety, or like your nerves kind of heighten your awareness. They can increase your focus and your attention, and they can mobilize your energy. So sometimes people want a little bit of butterflies before the ball game or before giving a speech or something like that. But we don't want it to go like tip the scale to the point where it actually like narrows your thinking and interferes with the execution of
Right.
whatever it is you're going to do, whether it's sport or speech or whatever. And it can trigger like over control or excessive thinking. And so there's sometimes a fine line,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm sure you've had plenty of people come to you with many of these concerns, many of these cases, so to speak. How do you like help the person to figure out, do I have an anxiety disorder, or is this just a fleeting thing? You know, do I need a treatment, or can I just like tweak a few things and make this thing work for me?
Yeah. And I think a lot of that's going to come as we kind of look at how we measure that. And so
Okay.
there are objective, quantifiable measurements of when is the brain going so fast.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll see the brain really isn't going that fast, but your perception is that this is overwhelming, and just kind of understanding, okay, this isn't going to overtake you.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we do a lot of times when we're working with people with systematic desensitization and those kind of things is it's just a matter of, can you move it? And sometimes people once the moment they're able to move the anxiety, they
Mm-hmm.
have mastery of it.
Yes.
And sometimes that's not just moving it down, but moving it up and realize, oh, I am in control of what this is happening.
Uh-huh.
And so we get in this whole model with anxiety where we try to suppress it all the time, like holding
Yes.
a beach ball down in the pool. And that suppression, it pops up someplace else,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
And so it's kind of learning to play with this thing and start to realize this thing can actually make me stronger. But if it's reducing my flexibility and it's taking up all my capacity,
Yeah.
and I can't be present and I can't perform, now it's gone over the edge. And so we have to look at that. So I think we have, from our history,
Yeah.
we're going to pick on Amy, situations where this lack of the anxiety elevated, and that
Yes.
created decreased flexibility or ability to adapt to
Right.
a situation. So our listeners may not know this, but Amy is a collegiate tennis player. So she
It
played
is true that I was a collegiate tennis
Tennis
player
player.
at a small college.
at a small college, but she was very good. And I can tell you that her backhand, I sometimes wake up at night screaming, thinking of playing tennis with Amy, and all of a sudden she winds up this like two-handed backhand, and it is a weapon. I mean, it just comes from butter. But Amy's a very good athlete, and our kids, 3 of our 4 kids, went to school to play college athletics, and they got that from their mother. But
Oh,
she was
that's
very good collegiately tennis, and there were times her team, were in some pretty significant matches. And there's one though that always comes to mind, right? The one in Cleveland. Do you remember
always
this?
comes to mind, the one you always want back.
Yeah, you do want it back
The
'cause
worst hijacking of the performance ever.
it was unbelievable. And this was going to advance us to nationals, right?
Yes, and I'm willing to share this.
Okay, so
Willing.
the team, we're
Mhm.
waiting for Amy on the court to play this girl that she should win. And so tell us what happened.
Well, she could win. She could.
You should have won.
But anyway, Tim was there. We were young married because we got married
Yeah,
in
we
our
were.
last
Yes. Oh,
semester
boy.
of college. So yes, so I had a lot going on. But yeah, I was out there on the court playing, and Tim was watching. And I have this forehand that sometimes is just unbelievable. Like this back in the day. So backhand's usually like my reliable tool, but this forehand, when it's working, like I can surprise myself even with how good it is. And in this particular game, like I lost it. Like it was gone. It wasn't even part of the repertoire. I could not. I tried it a few times, and this is where anxiety like was literally impacting my physical ability.
Isn't that crazy?
To execute something that I know easily how to do. And I had nothing. I couldn't do it. So, I lost point after point, either by trying to keep hitting it or just having to hit like a just wimpy return shot versus a finisher,
Yeah.
So this girl obviously had figured out not to hit to my backhand, which was very smart of her. So anyway, it was very sad because I went down with like, it was pitiful.
It was
I was
pretty epic.
watching myself.
It was epic. It was an epic spiral.
Like match, and to the point of just lobbing, trying to get around this forehand that had left me. I think sometimes they call it yips now and all different names for it, but it just, the thing is, it was gone. So looking back on it, no one had ever taught me anything about anxiety or, deep breathing or anything. Now I know, like, I could have probably pulled it together using some of those techniques and knowing myself better. But back in my history, even in high school, I had some anxiety things that impacted performance. Like I used to play the flute, and I was in a competition with the flute where I got anxious and my lip was trembling, which doesn't work well for the flute.
No.
So I did have a little history of that. But I can tell you, like, I understand what it means to not be able to execute something that you're completely capable of, because the anxiety factor was just tipped the scales in that direction.
Yeah, it's quite profound now that we look back, because this was like your fourth. You were a senior.
Yep.
You've been playing college tennis.
Yep.
You'd seen competition.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes where anxiety gets you.
Yeah.
Is you're like, I got this. All under. I've done this a million times. But to kind of the way we were positioned, it was indoors, and you were way at the other end, and I was just watching it happen, and nobody could talk to you or anything.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with your capabilities. The anxiety had just taken over, and
It
your
was a
flexibility.
head game, which I hate to say that I was just a head game there, but it was. And I also don't think I slept well the night before.
Interesting.
Because we were in a hotel and blah, blah, blah. But
So I have to say how this ended up. So afterwards, we went off to this locker room.
You have to say this?
I do have to say
Okay.
this. So we that's for the listeners.
Hi,
It's for the
it's
health
for
our listeners to learn.
Here we go.
Right.
Yeah.
So we go into the locker room, and we're kind of sitting there, and the anxiety has now turned to anger.
Anger. Yes.
Which you guys got to get this. We're going to talk about this. A lot of times, anger is really a secondary emotion to anxiety. Let me say that again. A lot of times, anger, irritability is a secondary emotion to anxiety. And a lot of times in men especially, they don't want to admit they're anxious, but they're going to have an anger problem.
Okay.
Or irritability. And it was so interesting. We went back there, and Amy was frustrated.
And Tim, my brand new husband, came to console me in a little private place.
Yes. And so she raised her fist and slammed it against my leg. We were sitting on this bench, and this fist came. I'm like, what have I married? She's a beast, man. She's like out of control. My leg, even to this day. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't still hurt. But I was like, what in the world? But it was so, as we unpack this here, we go into the mind, the progression.
Yes.
The progression of missing a couple, now the what ifs this happens again, missing some more, trying to adapt, not being able to compensate, the anxiety going through the roof, the lack of flexibility, and then the anger, irritability. It was just.
And you always hurt the ones you love.
You do. But to our listeners out there, think about that. Think about that progression and how that works.
Discover what your brain's been trying to tell you. Your Brain Matters with Dr. Tim Royer will be right back. WSIC, local, starts here.
Well, partly cloudy skies. We go through the rest of the evening. Overnight temperatures get cold again as we fall off down into the mid-20s around the lake. For our Friday, it's partly cloudy and it's a little warmer too. I think a good shot to make it into the low 50s for the afternoon. And then we'll chill it back down. 40s over the weekend, but a big warm up on the way likely by next week. That's exciting. That's your forecast. From the Serve Pickleball and Kitchen, I'm WSIC meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here's your WSIC community calendar,
Valentine's Day is officially on the horizon.
which means it's time to start planning, whether that's date night, girls' night, or just treating yourself.
Exactly. Let's take a look at what's coming up around Lake Norman.
We'll start in Statesville with a fun, feel-good event the whole family can enjoy. The Valentine's Day themed market happens Saturday, February 7th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 109 East Water Street in downtown Statesville.
Shop local bakers, artists, and creators. Enjoy Valentine's vibes. And yes, there's even a mini petting zoo with baby goats.
Plus, a Valentine's-themed photo area, a special $5 strawberry matcha, and 20% of all sales benefit Bella's Backpacks, helping children in need.
If you're looking for a Valentine's weekend date that's a little more mysterious,
The Murder Mystery Dinner featuring Sigmund Theatrical takes place February 13th and 14th at 7 p.m.
this fully interactive experience turns a museum setting into a living whodunit where guests become detectives, uncovering clues hidden among priceless artifacts and marble halls.
It's elegant, suspenseful, and perfect for couples or friends who want something different this Valentine's weekend.
Find tickets and full details at mooresvilleevents.com/ourtownstage.
Looking ahead to Galentine's Day?
Grab your besties and your biggest tote. Ella Blue is hosting a Galentine's shopping event, Friday, February 13th from 4 to 6 p.m. at 221 Griffith Street in Davidson, featuring boutique shopping, fun finds, and the perfect excuse to celebrate with friends.
For even more Valentine's events, local happenings, and community news,
Visit liveworkplaylkn.com today.
that's liveworkplaylkn.com.
I'm alpine skier Michaela Schifrin. I've won the most World Cup ski races in history. But what does success mean to me? Success means discipline. It's teamwork. It's the drive and passion inside of us, and it's why Stifel is one of the fastest growing global wealth management firms in the country. If you're looking for success, surround yourself with the people who will get you there. If you're an advisor or investor, choose Stifel, where success meets success.
Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Past performance is no indication of future results. Investing involves risk. Consult a financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
We're back with more of what your brain's been craving: balance, calm, and better thinking. Your Brain Matters with Dr. Tim Royer. WSIC Local starts here.
Welcome back to Your Brain Matters, and we got to learn a lot about Amy in the last one.
Yep. And I think what we learned too from that is, like, people are wired differently. Like, I asked Doc, tell us about anxiety that you feel. And I mean, he speaks all the time, and he has met all kinds of people that would make me more anxious, and that's just not a part of his makeup. But we'll talk another time about what Doc, how his anxiety experience is and what that feels like to him. And also, we have 4 kids, and we have dealt with anxiety with all of our kids because it is a natural part of life, but for different reasons and in different situations. And so learning and understanding anxiety is just something we all should take a minute and just get a little grasp of it, like, one, for myself, but also for, if you're a parent, I mean, you have to be ready to deal with anxiety because it's just a normal part of growing up. But then trying to figure out, like, hey, when is it something I need to intervene, and not just like developmental or things like that. So yeah, I feel like when our kids had anxiety situations, it made me anxious because I didn't know what to do to help them. But thankfully, I married a child psychologist. So I felt that he would know how to do everything. No, not really. But he helped me understand that more. And there's just a lot of reasons why kids can have anxiety. And so we're going to talk a little bit about a case study.
Yeah. And I think just to kind of close that loop that you're talking about there, anxiety is part of normal development,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not, this problem is when we try to avoid it. Okay. So think of like I'm going down this path and I see this thing that I'm anxious about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we'll talk more about this when we're talking about managing anxiety. But I see this thing that I'm anxious about, and so I kind of skirt my way around it. I go through
Sure.
the woods to
Yep.
try to avoid it and come back. Well, the next time I come down the path and I see this thing, it actually will become bigger. And so now I'm avoiding it more.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, this little thing has now consumed so much of what I'm perceiving that I'm avoiding and walking around, trying to go around it. And the only way to master it is to go through it. And we're going to learn more about that
Yeah.
in future episode. But with children, that's kind of part of our job as
Yes.
parents,
Yep.
is to teach them not to keep everything out of their world that will keep them from being anxious, because
Yeah, that's the worst
yeah,
idea.
they're not going to get stronger from that,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
every time they're anxious at night in bed, if you just keep taking them out of their bed and, coming into your bed, and you don't teach them how to go through that, then you're moving on to the next thing that gets displaced on.
Yeah.
It just keeps going and going. So we have to work on that. The case study I'm going to talk about is really representative of many, many cases.
Mhm.
I think our original work in the early 90s, where we looked at 1,000 ADHD kids and found out that 30% of them didn't even have ADHD, but they primarily had anxiety. That's the
Yes.
most common. When I look at the brain
Mm-hmm.
and I have somebody come in and they say, my child has ADHD, and we look at the brain, we see it's not ADHD, it's anxiety.
Yeah.
So I'll talk a little bit about kind of how that presents. So we're going to take this 7-year-old,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
who is struggling in school, having a hard time focusing,
Yeah.
and the teacher mentions that to the parent. The school performance is not going the way it should.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
There's more rigidity in the thinking, problem solving, not keeping up with the peers. And so that gets misinterpreted, that behavior, many times as, oh, he's not paying attention, he's distracted, he's not keeping up.
Yes.
And because people are just looking at the behaviors and not looking at the brain, you can miss a lot of times. So in this case, for this child, they did start him on ADHD meds,
Yes.
and all of a sudden can't sleep at night, starting to have tics, like little motor tics.
Mhm.
Okay, appetite's gone away,
Yeah.
and then a panic attack, to the point that comes home from school and can't get in the door and throws a chair through the window, which is not like this child, right?
Right.
And so, like, what's going on there? Well, when we looked at the brain, we realized this is not a brain that needs an amphetamine.
Mm-hmm.
It does not need to be sped up,
Yep.
because the EEG shows us that the high beta waves, which are the fast sympathetic brain waves, are going too fast,
Mm-hmm.
and you would never want to put a stimulant in this child's brain. So we started to look a little bit further and said, okay, yes, the brain's going a little bit faster, a lot faster, not the type of brain where it's going too slow and I need to do a stimulant,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going way too fast. But what's causing that? So then we look a little bit deeper and see that the brain waves related to recovery or sleep, which are referred to as theta waves, that those are unusually low
Mm.
for the child, right?
Right. So this lack of a brake pedal.
Exactly. So he's not getting that braking mechanism, which typically we want those slow waves to be 2.5 times more than the rest of the brain waves. So there's a high abundance of them because
Mhm.
the brain can't turn off.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but this child only has 1.5 times more than the other brain waves. So now we know he's not recovering. That's why the brain waves are going faster. There's no brake pedal, like you said, right?
Right. So then I'm just imagining like an electrical wire. It's just buzzing.
Oh,
Even when you try to like help this child, like, here's this good environment for you. Here's this schedule we're going to do for you. Here's all these things that we would try to do in that situation. the inside of that child is not able to even accept those things because the electricity is revving. And so then what are you going to do?
Right. And a lot of times what happens is if you could balance that out,
Mm-hmm.
the child is bright enough that he will start to take those things in. But
Yeah.
the brain is resistant, or the thinking is resistant to it because it's technically or essentially running from a lion.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So I'm not going to have a conversation about how you need to pick up your broom
Yeah.
when you're running from a lion. We first have to get the brain balanced. So the big question that comes up there was like, what's going on with the recovery mechanisms? Okay, the brake pedal's not
Yeah.
going on like we should.
Yeah.
The anxiety ones are up. And so then we said, okay, let's do one of our in-home sleep studies.
Okay.
So we send that home. It's very easy to use. It's about the size of an iPhone, these 3 stickers that go to the brain. And we measure the sleep, and sure enough, we find out there's not enough deep sleep, not enough REM, and a child that age should have a sleep efficiency, the amount of time in bed, how much of they're sleeping, should be upwards over 90%. This child's at 78%.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So there's something off in the sleep cycle that's
Mhm.
tied to the anxiety.
Yes.
But why in the world would I give that child a stimulant that's
Yeah.
we know is going to disrupt sleep
Right.
and make his sleep efficiency worse? That is like
The
that's not medicine.
No.
Okay? And people who are putting kids on meds and not looking at the brain, I mean, that's borderline malpractice. Okay, you've got to look at the brain.
Yeah,
Because you get
because-
one brain. You get one brain. And I see these kids get pushed around. They kind of get bullied from the psychopharmaceutical side of things.
Yes.
Where nobody's like measuring the brain.
Right, because you would say, hey, get it measured, and if it looks like that, then take that medicine.
Exactly.
And if
I
it
don't have a
looks
problem
like
with that.
something
Yeah.
else, then take a different medicine, but don't take a medicine without seeing what the brain looks like.
Yeah, and that medicine, it was actually making it worse.
Way worse, yes.
Yeah, so there's no flexibility. Like we talked about earlier in your tennis thing, the ability to adapt, flexible, that's gone because it's tunnel vision at this point
Yeah.
because of anxiety for survival, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's always important that we look upstream. We look at the brain, we look at the physiology, then we can look at thoughts and feelings, and then from there we can look at behaviors. So Aim, we're going to go into the 2-minute drill. I just want to remind everybody we have 2 more episodes on anxiety. How do we reveal it and how to rewire it, and get our free book, Tsunami, 616-341-2299. 2-minute drill.
Okay, 2-minute drill for all of us, including myself.
Yes.
The anxious tennis player. What we want you to do is, because everybody does have these feelings of anxiety, is notice them and try to decipher, is this an anxious feeling that could be good for me and make me stronger and make me sharper? Or is this an anxious feeling that is something like what Doc was saying, that I'm going to avoid in the road and it's just going to get bigger and become more of a menace? And so identifying that so that you can see, like, hey, is this good for me or is this bad for me? Or is this becoming a diagnostic type thing? And then, guys, this is not going to be a big surprise to you, but the number one way to work with anxiety, and we'll talk about this later, is breathing. So you got to go back to the breathing, give yourself 3 minutes of deep breathing and examine what that anxiety feeling feels like. So Doc would say, give it a number, do your breathing, and then give it a number. And you would want to see it go from higher down to lower with just 3 minutes of breathing. So do it this week and see what you come up with.
Love it. Love it. So next week, we're going to be talking about how we kind of unpack this and measure this. And once we can measure it, we can master it. Your brain matters, and your child's brain matters. All of our brains matter.
Great radio doesn't end here. Catch the full episode and dive into our archives on the WSIC News app.
WSIC 105.9 FM, 100.7 FM, 1400 AM. Statesville, Lake Norman's home for local talk radio. WSIC. Local starts here.